The Sacramento Kings improved to a perfect 4-0 in Summer League, and everything that they are doing, from their defensive intensity to the top guys playing every single game to Nique Clifford's individual performances, it all points back to one thing: Scott Perry and Doug Christie establishing their new culture in Sacramento. It has begun with Summer League, and you are listening to Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all off-season long. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports anchor and reporter for ABC 10 News. And over the course of this off-season, one of the things that I think we've all been trying to establish for not just the Sacramento Kings as a franchise, but really ourselves as fans going into next season is, like, what is the point? What am I watching for? The obvious answer is, well, the Sacramento Kings would love to compete for a championship. That's the ultimate goal. Realistically, we know that's very likely not happening in Sacramento with this group, despite the fact that they have more talent on their roster than their record, I think, will reflect, because we just don't think that talent meshes very well together. So, from the moment that Scott Perry was hired, really from the moment that he took the podium in his introductory press conference, he's talked about his culture and the identity traits and what he wants to build here in Sacramento, and that every successful team has to have a culture. And the reality is, with the exception of Beam Team 1, we have not really been able to identify what the identity, the culture, the strength is of the Sacramento Kings. And if they can't identify how they're supposed to play basketball and what they are elite at, how can they hope to compete and beat teams that are very confident and very comfortable in who they are? So, to me, and I think to Scott Perry and even Doug Christie, that's what next season is all about. Establishing the culture. Everything that the Kings do from the moment Scott Perry was hired to the end of this upcoming season and maybe into the postseason. Who knows? I wouldn't put my money on it, but we'll see. How does that impact, correlate, or lead to the establishment of a culture? We may not know what the future looks like for the Sacramento Kings. We may not know which players completely fit and which players are on Scott Perry's long-term plan or aren't by the end of this season. But we should know by game 82, hopefully well before that, but we should know by game 82 what the culture is here in Sacramento, which players buy into it and reflect it and which players don't. That question should be 100% answered by the end of this season. I say all that to say that what we're watching in the Summer League for the Sacramento Kings, a lot of it, if we apply the same level of thinking, if we apply, okay, we're looking at everything this Summer League team is doing, how they're playing, individual performances, what their motivations are, and we're applying that to establishing the culture or looking at it through the lens of establishing a culture, it all makes sense. Think about it. This Summer League team's primary motivation is winning. Specifically, winning a Summer League title. That has been made perfectly clear through the words of the top guys like Maxim Reno, who straight up said in an interview today that they're playing to win a championship. Through the actions of those top guys, through the actions of the role players on this Summer League squad that are hoping to get a training camp invite or extend their professional basketball careers by impressing somebody, whether it's domestically here in the United States in the NBA or internationally. Everybody is bought in first and foremost to winning the Summer League championship this year. And while that might not mean anything to you and I, although to Kings fans, I think we enjoy celebrating Summer League championships. While teams like the Oklahoma City Thunder or Los Angeles Lakers or these juggernaut teams might roll their eyes at a Summer League title and think it's nothing, it means something to them because as of now, it is the highest level that they can achieve. It's what they can win right now. They're prioritizing that over their own individual development. Now, I would argue both things go hand in hand. If you're trying to win basketball games, if your primary motivation is to win a Summer League ring, you're probably doing the best you can to develop yourself individually to accomplish that goal. So the motivations of the team fit the new culture. The way this Kings team has been playing, every single time in these 4 games that the Kings are a perfect 4-0 in, every time that they've really exploded or started getting going or went on these massive runs or built these leads, it's begun on the defensive end leading out to transition opportunities. Defense, a staple, an anchor of what Scott Perry and Doug Christie want to establish for the culture of the Sacramento Kings going forward. Then there's individual play, right? Scott Perry has talked about prioritizing players that can play both ends of the floor, having players that are versatile, who are more than just one-trick ponies. We'll talk more about this in a second, but what Nique Clifford is doing across the board, Nique has been unbelievable in like almost every statistical category. He's filling up stat sheets left and right. I'm going to read to you his 4 stat lines in Summer League. They're bonkers. Nique Clifford being the head of the spear, leading the charge as a versatile player. It fits the culture. Everything points back to how Perry wants this team to play and what the Kings want their new identity to be. Doesn't mean it's been established just because of 4 really, really good, successful Summer League games, right? The real test will be training camp and the first few months of the season. The real test will actually be when the season starts and the Kings are trying to establish this culture while getting beaten up or suffering hard losses. Or I think the Kings, like their biggest opponent when it comes to the regular season, when it comes to establishing the culture, is going to be themselves, right? Avoiding the falling back into the bad habits and continuing to emphasize and play the quote-unquote right way as determined by Perry and Doug Christie and this new identity. I love the fact, I love it, that all the top guys are still playing, right? Nique Clifford played 4 games. Devin Carter played 4 games. Isaac Jones played 4 games. Maxim Reno would have played 4 games if he hadn't been held out in Game 3 because of his wrist soreness, but easily could have gone, yeah, I got a little bit of a wrist injury that I suffered in Game 2. I had 2 really good games to start my quote-unquote NBA career. I'm good. Like, let's just err on the side of caution. I got my reps in. I'm good. No, Maxim's like, get me back out there. I want to play. Like, all of that, again, points to the culture that the Kings are trying to establish, and they want to play. All these guys want to play. And I'm not disrespecting, and I'm not like trying to throw shade at Cooper Flagg or with the Dallas Mavericks or anything. Like, I understand that to some extent. He played 2 games. First game was a little bit rough. Second game, he exploded for what, like 32 points or something like that. The Dallas Mavericks know he's the number 1 pick. He's going to be a very, very important piece for them right away. He doesn't really need to play anymore. I get that. So I'm not throwing shade at teams that decide to shut down their top guys after 2 or 3 games to showcase themselves, to get themselves ready. These Kings rookies want to play. These top guys want to play, want to win a championship. And Nique Clifford, coming into this Summer League, a lot of what we talked about when talking about Devin Carter was, man, he needs to be the best player on this Kings team. I want to see him establish himself as the number 1 guy on this Kings Summer League roster because he was a lottery pick last year, and he's going into his second year. He has a lot to prove. And Devin Carter, of course, had a really good game too, scoring 30 points. But no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Nique Clifford is the best player by a mile on this Kings Summer League team, the 24th pick. And I would argue Nique Clifford should be on the all-Summer League team. I think there is that. I think that exists. Like, there are not 5 other players that are better than Nique Clifford. There are plenty of guys that have scored more than Nique Clifford. But his stat lines, y'all. Game 1 versus Orlando, 17 points, shot 41% from the field, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 1 block. Game 2 versus Chicago, 19 points, shot 61% from the field, 12 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal. Game 3 versus Phoenix, 19 points, 87% shooting from the field, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 1 block. Game 4 today, 19 points, 53% shooting from the field, 7 rebounds, 9 assists, 4 wins, 0 losses. Nique Clifford at the center of it all, doing more than just scoring the basketball or 1 or 2 things well. Those stat lines are ridiculous. And again, I talked about this a lot after Game 3 in the podcast on Game 3. I'm going to try not to repeat myself too much, but Clifford was identified as a versatile player coming into the league. And his strength as an older, versatile prospect should hopefully provide more of an immediate impact for the Sacramento Kings, which is what they're looking for. Well, here you go. 4 games where he's immediately impactful in so many different areas. And he's 4-0. Hopefully this can translate to the NBA at a high level. Like, his consistency is huge. I thought it was very, very interesting that the Kings played primarily through Nique Clifford as their facilitator, ball handler, point guard, whatever you want to call him, down the stretch of this game. When this game was close and Cleveland was trying to snatch it away, Nique Clifford was the one that carried the Kings throughout pretty much the entire fourth quarter and closed this game out. Nique was the guy, not Devin Carter. We're going to talk about Devin Carter in a little bit because Devin struggled. There are fair frustrations with Devin Carter. And then a lot of us have to be honest with ourselves about where our frustrations with Devin Carter stem from. I'm going to rant and rave about that here in just a second. But like as of right now, trying to put together the Kings rotation in my head, assuming the roster is what it is. They still have the MLE to make changes. They still have time to make trades. But if this is what the roster is going into training camp and going into the start of the season, we believe we know what the starting 5 is going to be. It's Dennis Schroeder, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Keegan Murray, Domantas Sabonis. I don't think that's changing. But when it comes to the bench and who's playing off the bench and how deep the rotation is, I think it's a 9-man rotation, and there's no way that Nique Clifford is not part of that 9-man rotation. It's Malik Monk, it's Keon Ellis, it's Nique Clifford, and then I would argue the 9th man, because you need some backup center minutes, should be Maxim Reno. Why the hell not? Why not? You mean to tell me Drew Eubanks would be better for the Sacramento? Sure, he's more NBA. I mean, he has way more NBA experience. Like Maxim Reno and Nique Clifford need to be playing right away. Again, I teased this on the last episode, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later on this summer, maybe as early as next week or two. Like, I understand fans that want the Kings just to primarily play their young guys. I understand you completely. It's not going to happen because LaVine and DeRozan and Sabonis are on this roster. And that's okay, because there is a way where those top guys can still play their minutes, but Nique Clifford and Maxim Reno should be getting 12 to 15 minutes minimum a night, and I would argue Nique Clifford's going to play his way even above that very quickly. And I don't think that's just an overreaction to Summer League. Based off of where the Kings are as an organization, how those two guys, and Nique especially, fit the culture the Kings are trying to build going forward, how he's an older, more NBA-ready rookie and prospect, Nique Clifford needs to be a part of the 8-man, 9-man rotation right away. He's played his way into that. He's proven that time and time again. He has been one of the best, if not the best player in Summer League, period. This episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? Well, with Monarch Money, it can be. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a simple budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building your wealth. You'll be surprised by the amount of information that is revealed to you right away when you sign up for Monarch Money, right? It analyzes your spending, shares with you specifically where your money is going, how much money is going to very specific areas, like whether it's your favorite coffee shop. Like for my family, it's the amount of money we spend at Dutch Bros or on our Target run shopping sprees or whatever it may be. Monarch Money breaks it all down for you. Everything is in one app, so it's super easy. You don't have to consolidate different apps and spreadsheets on your computer and files and different folders, right? It's all right there for you. And it's easy to manage different accounts and accounts that you share with your partners. It's all right there in front of you, all in one place with Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off of your first year. All right, let's talk about Devin Carter. Today's game, 11 points, 3 of 9 shooting from the field, 1 of 6 from three-point range, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 turnovers. Like I said, kind of lost his point guard responsibilities down the stretch of this game. The Kings turned it over to Nique. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to be a total bad thing for Carter or total like, oh, Nique's taken over because Carter essentially got benched while still being on the floor. He lost his responsibilities to Nique Clifford. In basketball games, right, we see this all the time. If a guy has a hot hand, you feed the hot hand. Nique was obviously cooking, he especially in that fourth quarter. He was rolling. So we don't have to overreact to it, but we do. I do think we should point it out. I do think it should be acknowledged. No, Devin Carter was not particularly great in this game. I have felt in all 4 of these games with Devin trying to take on the point guard responsibilities that he has done a really good job, or at least has made an effort to attack the basket and touch the paint and draw the defense in, get downhill as a point guard, which is good, which is important for the Sacramento Kings offense. There have been times throughout Summer League, and I felt in this game more than any other game, where when he was trying to get downhill, he was a bit out of control. And it resulted in turnovers. It resulted in him being on the floor way too much, forcing bad shots. Devin Carter was not his best today. And like I acknowledged in the last segment, my goal going into this Summer League was for Devin Carter to shine as the best player on this Summer League team. He hasn't. Nique Clifford has completely outperformed him. And I would argue that it's a close battle for second between Devin Carter and Maxim Reno. So there is definitely disappointment there. There's definitely frustrations with Devin Carter. And I've expressed those frustrations with Devin a number of times over the last year that he's been a part of the Sacramento Kings organization. Even going back to, you can listen to my podcast on draft night where I just question why the heck the Kings made that pick, how he didn't make sense for Sacramento. Another guard, undersized, injured, needing shoulder surgery. It's okay, excuse me, to have doubts about Devin Carter, to be frustrated about elements of Devin Carter's game, to not think he doesn't fit with the Kings going forward. But I personally am reading a lot of the comments on my podcasts and seeing the conversations on social media. Am hearing the conversations on local sports talk radio. And I'm getting kind of disgusted. And if I have to put on my cape here and be captain defender Devin Carter a little bit, like, I'm going to do it. Because I do have my doubts about Devin. I don't think Devin Carter is a good fit for this basketball team. That's also not Devin Carter's fault. It's never been Devin Carter's fault. And I think we all, including myself, need to be honest with ourselves about where our frustrations towards Devin Carter stem from. Where do they come from? They have nothing to do with Devin. They have everything to do with the Sacramento Kings organization and Monte McNair, who is no longer here, who drafted Devin Carter. We are frustrated and angry with Devin because of the feelings that we couldn't really express towards the guy that drafted him and the organization that screwed up their draft as part of a long line of screw-ups since Beam Team 1 made it to the playoffs. Devin is a part of that failure, but he is not the failure himself. Devin Carter is an NBA player. Devin Carter can be an impactful NBA player on any of these 30 NBA teams. I believe that wholeheartedly. Does Devin have shortcomings? Yes. His jump shot is ugly. I don't think he necessarily fully knows what he is in the NBA yet. But man, I think some people got to cool it and tone it down with some of the unnecessary criticisms and insults from Devin Carter, even going as far as to comment on his appearance and his hairline. Look, Captain, not a great hairline here myself, and I'm happy to point it out too because I see it all the time. Like, I get it. Get your jokes off. Get your stuff off. But there is a line of going too far when talking about Devin Carter as a player. The hairline thing, that's in one ear, out the other. I'm sure he's gotten that his entire career, so whatever. But the comments that I'm seeing about Devin as a basketball player and understanding, at least for myself, and I think I understand for the fan base where that frustration comes from. I think it needs to be hashed out. It needs to be talked about. I see a young man who was put in a position to fail. He was drafted while injured to a team that desperately needed impactful talent right away. He was drafted to a team that has an absolute logjam at his position while actively ignoring the gaping hole in their roster that they'd had for 2 years at that point, and they still have right now. He was asked to come back after surgery, missing training camp, no summer league, and be an impactful player for a team that had fired their coach midseason. The star was on the way out, and the entire organization was in shambles. Like, the man was set up to fail, and now he's being asked to play a position that he's never really played before. And what does that reveal? Devin Carter's not a good fit on this Kings team. Or, as what we believe Devin Carter to be, does not fit with this Kings team. If Devin cannot handle the backup point guard responsibilities, which, like we've talked about, might be his only route to consistent playing time on this team as of right now. That's not necessarily his fault, but if you're trying to mold a player into something that they're not, it's looked at as a shortcoming on the player for sure, especially someone like Devin Carter, who's 6'1", 6'2". But I don't fully blame Devin Carter for being asked at the highest level of professional basketball on this planet. I'm not talking about Summer League. I'm talking about the NBA. On the highest level to learn a new position. It's incredibly difficult to do. I think he's done admirably in certain areas. I think there's been other areas where it's obvious he's not comfortable. More often than not during this Summer League, I've been impressed by Devin Carter. I have been. I've been encouraged by Devin Carter. And I'm not switching up on that. I'm not changing up on that. I've always had my doubts. I do still think Devin Carter, as of right now, deserves the shot going into training camp of backup point guard minutes just to see what it looks like, unless the Kings go out and find another backup point guard, which they still can do. But, like, I don't think anybody should be angry at Devin Carter for the circumstances that he's in. We can acknowledge the reality that he's not the right fit for this team. And I think Scott Perry is acknowledging that there's a lot of players on this roster right now that he's forced to carry into next season that don't fit his vision for the team either. So Devin's certainly not alone in that. Again, we can be critical of Devin Carter and his game. I certainly am to some extent. I hear the gripes against him publicly and privately. I also have heard the work that Devin Carter has been trying to put in to learn that position and make the most of his opportunity right now because that's all that's put in front of him. And I respect that. So I'm interested to see how it plays out. If I were putting money on it, and it's horrible to say, if I were putting money on it, I would bet that it doesn't work. Now, but I would not go as far to say I bet that Devin Carter will fail, because it's always going to be a failure on the Sacramento Kings and the former front office first before Devin Carter, in my opinion. That needs to be acknowledged every time we're expressing our frustrations towards Carter as a basketball player. On a more positive note, Maxim Reno got back into the lineup for the Sacramento Kings today, right back into the starting lineup, scored 6 of his 10 points in the first quarter, so got himself going. He had an alley-oop from Nique Clifford, like right out of the gate, and it was like, oh yeah, that was nice to see. 10 points, 3 of 6 shooting from the field, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 blocks. Honestly, the best part of this game for Maxim Reno was when he was sitting on the bench and he was given a headset by the broadcast team and he did an interview while sitting on the bench. And, I mean, Maxim, for being a French player, it's funny, I interacted with him a little bit before I did my interview with him, my one-on-one in Sacramento after his press conference. He was talking, like my English isn't very good. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Your English is fantastic. His communication is amazing. His IQ, for being a Stanford guy, no surprise, is astronomically high. He's such an incredibly smart man as well as a basketball player. He's funny, and he's getting, interviewing or interrupting the interview 2 or 3 different times to stand up on the bench and cheer for his guys. I thought the interview was fantastic. Fantastic for Maxim Reno. But one of the things I made sure to point out on social media today is this. You learn most about a player through their actions, not through their words. Because Maxim can say and has said pretty much all the right things. But what are his actions saying? And here's what we've learned about Maxim Reno. When he was drafted by the Sacramento Kings, he came to Sacramento almost immediately, well before his introductory press conference, and immediately went to the practice facility and started working in the practice facility like 2 times a day. Immediately got to work. When he got into the actual summer league itself, he is constantly hollering, talking, communicating on the defensive end of the floor. On the bench, he is constantly cheering, yelling, communicating, supporting his teammates. He's wanting to play in Game 4 of a summer league game, even after having a little bit of a wrist injury. All of his actions speak to him being fantastic for this Kings organization. And once again, a great fit for the new culture or identity that Scott Perry and Doug Christie are trying to establish. In this game in particular, I love the fact that Maxim had 3 blocks. I've been calling for it throughout the summer league, the first 2 games. You can go back and listen to the podcast, how much I was asking for him to be more aggressive when contesting shots at the rim. And he was swinging at the ball, and he got 3 blocks. Had a couple of really nice rejections on aggressive takes to the basket by members of the Cleveland Cavaliers. You love to see that. Now, I will, though, acknowledge, excuse me, that Maxim was killed on the glass. He had 5 rebounds in this game. I think he's averaging 5 rebounds a game. As a 7'1", 7'2" guy, that's got to be better. That's something that hopefully Domantas Sabonis can take him under his wing and teach him a thing or two. But the Kings were demolished on the glass in this game. The offensive glass for the Cleveland Cavaliers is what gave them a chance to win this game. The Kings were destroyed on the glass. Maxim Reno has to take a lot of responsibility for that. And consistently, he was out-rebounded by both Devin Carter and Nique Clifford in this summer league. Now, I understand that Maxim is more of an outside-in type player, but that's on the offensive end. So if he doesn't get a lot of offensive rebounds, okay. Defensively, you got to get more defensive rebounds than that. And that just speaks to, I think, Maxim needing to work on getting stronger, being a little more physical in the paint. And I think that'll come with time. Want to make sure I shout out to Isaac Jones. Had another really, really solid game. He's had a super solid summer league in general. We've just been talking a lot about the rookies, of course. Isaac Jones, 17 points, 8 of 11 from the field, 3 rebounds, 1 block. Just played really well. He had his two-way contract converted into a full contract by the Kings last season. While I won't predict that he's going to be a consistent rotational guy for Sacramento, I mean, he definitely deserves a spot on the main roster, in my opinion. And he's going to be a guy that Doug Christie, I think, can go to in certain specific instances when he needs more physicality with confidence at any time this season. I really like Isaac Jones and how he played. So now we wait. The Kings, a perfect 4-0 in Summer League. Because they were the first game today, they were the first team to officially go 4-0. But there's a number of other teams that are undefeated, or at least were undefeated coming into this day. At the time of recording this podcast, none of the other games are final. So the Kings don't know if they're going to move on or not. The top 4 teams in Summer League advance to essentially the Summer League playoffs, the semifinals, and then there's the finals based off of who wins the semifinal games. And the Kings are in the number 1 spot right now, but if they tie 4-0 with other teams, which more than likely they will, then it comes down to point differential. And coming into the day, the Kings were like 3-0 with a bunch of other teams, but point differential-wise, they were like hovering around the 3-4-5 range. Again, they have to be top 4 just to make it to the Summer League playoffs and to keep playing. So we'll see. By the end of today, we'll know whether or not the Kings will continue playing in the Summer League or not. But their guaranteed games are over and done with. And if this is all we get to see, I'm very happy with what I've seen. Nique Carter, phenomenal. Maxim Reno, very promising. Devin Carter had good moments, had bad moments, but I'm intrigued. Isaac Jones, really, really good. Dylan Cardwell, excited that he's a two-way player for this Kings squad. This has been a very, very encouraging, successful Summer League for the Sacramento Kings. I'm really happy about it. I was also really happy to see DeMar DeRozan there, sitting courtside watching the Kings in Summer League in Vegas. Zach LaVine has been in Lake Tahoe as part of the American Century Celebrity Golf Tournament, so that's why he isn't there. Bit disappointed, I'm not going to lie to you, that Domas didn't make an appearance at any point, but it's not anything to overreact to. But want to hear your thoughts. Your thoughts on this Summer League game, your thoughts on what I had to say about Devin Carter, Nique Clifford, Maxim Reno. Let it fly at MattGeorgeSack on Twitter. Email me, mattgeorgesports@gmail.com, or leave your thoughts in the YouTube comment section down below. Appreciate your support. Can't wait to have you join us on the next episode of Locked On Kings. Until then, my name is Matt George. You've been listening to the Locked On Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.